Have you ever noticed that as the years go by, things you used to do with ease now feel more difficult? Maybe getting out of a chair takes more effort, climbing stairs feels heavier on your legs, or carrying groceries is no longer as effortless as it once was. Most people assume this is just getting older, but there's something much deeper happening here. After the age of 60, well, your body starts to go through a process called sarcopenia, which simply means age-related muscle loss. And here's the shocking part. If you don't take action, you can lose up to 50% of your muscle mass by the time you reach 80. Imagine that for a second half of the strength you once had gone. That's why people often move slower, look frailer, and become more dependent as they age. But what if I told you this doesn't have to be your future? What if you could actually slow down, stop, or even reverse this process? The human body is designed to adapt to the environment it's given. When you're younger, you're naturally more active. You're carrying your body weight, running around, lifting things, and using your muscles daily. This constant use keeps them strong, but as time goes on, activity levels usually decrease. Many people retire, sit more, move less, and gradually stop challenging their muscles. The body adapts to this lack of demand by saying, well, if you don't need this muscle, I'll just get rid of it. And that's exactly what happens. But here's where it gets tricky. This isn't just about losing strength. Muscles are metabolically active tissue. They store glucose, they burn fat, and they protect your joints and bones. When muscle disappears, your metabolism slows, fat accumulates more easily, and you're at a greater risk for diabetes, obesity, and falls. So losing muscle isn't just a cosmetic issue, it's a direct threat to your health and independence. And now here's a little hook for you. Did you know that your leg muscles are actually the first to go? That's right. The large muscles in your thighs and hips are among the fastest to shrink with age. And that explains why seniors often struggle with walking, balance, and mobility long before they notice weakness in their arms. Think about how important this is. Your legs are your foundation. If they become weak, every single movement, standing, walking, climbing stairs, even just keeping your balance, is affected. And this weakness is one of the top risk factors for falls, which, unfortunately, are a leading cause of injury and loss of independence in older adults. It's not just about looking frail, it's about the very real possibility of ending up in a hospital bed from a fall that could have been prevented. But let me give you a perspective shift. Sarcopenia is not inevitable in the way most people think. Yes, aging creates the conditions for muscle loss, but whether you actually lose it at a fast pace depends on your choices. And the first thing you need to understand is that your body is in a constant tug of war between building muscle and breaking it down. After 60, the balance starts tipping more heavily toward breakdown. The hormonal changes play a role: lower testosterone, less growth hormone, more insulin resistance. But here's the interesting part. You can influence this balance through what you eat, how you move, and when you do it. So while muscle loss may accelerate with age, it's not a fixed destiny. Here's a hook that might surprise you. Muscle is not just for movement. It's actually your number one longevity organ. Think about this: the more muscle you have, the longer and healthier you live. Why? Because muscle helps regulate blood sugar, it keeps inflammation down, and it produces myokines. These are powerful compounds released by your muscles when you use them. Myokines have anti-inflammatory and even anti-cancer properties. So every time you contract your muscles, you're releasing healing signals throughout your body. That means having strong muscles after 60 isn't just about climbing stairs. It's about protecting your brain, your heart, and your immune system. Another thing most people don't realize is that muscle loss actually starts much earlier than you think. The average person begins losing muscle in their 30s, but it's so slow that you don't notice it. By the time you hit 60, the process speeds up, and suddenly the decline becomes obvious. What used to be subtle, like feeling a little weaker at the gym, now turns into difficulty getting out of a chair or standing on one leg. And here's the danger: that once you lose a certain amount of muscle, everyday life itself becomes a workout. Simply carrying your body weight feels exhausting. This creates a vicious cycle. Weakness makes you less active. Less activity makes you weaker, and the cycle continues until independence slips away. Let me give you an image to lock this in. Picture two 70-year-olds. One starts the day with a protein-rich breakfast, does light resistance training a few times a week, walks daily, and makes it a point to use their muscles. The other eats cereal and toast for breakfast, sits most of the day, and avoids exercise because it's too late. Fast forward 10 years. The first person is still walking, still traveling, still independent. The second is struggling with a walker, maybe dealing with diabetes or falls, and is far more dependent. Same age, same years on the clock, but completely different quality of life. The difference: muscle preservation. Here's another fascinating fact. Muscle loss isn't just about the number of fibers shrinking. Your muscle cells actually lose mitochondria, the tiny energy factories that keep your body alive. That's why many seniors feel fatigued all the time. They don't just have less muscle, they have less energy inside the muscle they do have. But here's the good part: when you use your muscles and give them the right fuel, you can actually stimulate your body to create new mitochondria. That means more energy, more stamina, and more strength, even after 60. So let me ask you, what's more valuable than a savings account, more protective than an insurance policy, and more reliable than any pill? It's the muscle you carry on your body. That's your true wealth as you age. The stronger you are, the more freedom you have. And freedom, independence, vitality, that's what makes life worth living after 60. Have you ever wondered why so many people over 60 start the day feeling weak, tired, or unstable on their feet? It's not just age catching up, it's actually a direct result of what they choose to eat first thing in the morning. Breakfast, more than any other meal of the day, has a profound impact on whether your muscles are being preserved or slowly wasting away. And here's the surprising part. Most seniors are eating exactly the wrong kind of breakfast, the kind that accelerates muscle loss instead of protecting it. Think about it. The typical breakfast foods people reach for are cereal, tossed, oatmeal, a glass of orange juice, or maybe even a bagel or muffin. These foods are loaded with sugar and starch, which means they spike insulin and deliver very little protein. Now, at first glance, that might seem harmless. After all, these are marketed as healthy options, especially oatmeal and fruit. But the reality is that after fasting all night, your body is in a state where your muscles are looking for building blocks, specifically amino acids, to repair and rebuild. When you skip protein at breakfast and replace it with sugar or refined carbs, your body has no choice but to continue breaking down muscle tissue to meet its needs. That means, without realizing it, you're fueling the very process you want to avoid: muscle wasting. Here's a hook to grab your attention. Your first meal of the day literally sets the tone for whether you'll keep or lose muscle as you age. If you get it wrong, let your muscles remain in a breakdown state. If you get it right, you flip the switch toward muscle preservation and even growth. That's how powerful your breakfast choices are. This isn't just about energy, it's about longevity, strength, and independence. The science behind this is actually very clear. When you wake up, your muscles are in a catabolic state, which means they're breaking down protein for energy. That's because you've been fasting overnight, usually 10 to 12 hours without food. The body is smart. It uses stored glycogen and fat for energy, but it also begins tapping into protein reserves mainly from your muscles. Now, here's the critical part, If your first meal is protein-rich, especially with essential amino acids like leucine, you immediately stop this breakdown process and shift into an anabolic state, which means building and repairing muscle. On the other hand, if your first meal is nothing but sugar and carbs, you've missed that window. Not only do you fail to stop the breakdown, but the insulin spike you create makes it even harder for your body to use protein efficiently later in the day. Let me put it another way. Your muscles are most hungry for protein in the morning. It's like they're standing at the door waiting for the delivery truck to arrive. If the truck shows up with the right supplies, amino acids, the repair crew gets to work and muscle is maintained. But if that truck shows up with empty boxes, sugar and carbs, the repair crew is left with nothing and the building continues to fall apart. That's exactly what happens in the body when breakfast is skipped or filled with the wrong foods. Here's another hook that might shock you. Studies show that older adults actually require more protein in the morning than younger adults to trigger muscle protein synthesis. And that means while a 20-year-old might get away with eating poorly at breakfast, someone over 60 cannot. The older you get, the more crucial it becomes to load your first meal with the right fuel. And yet most seniors are still eating like children. Pancakes, jam, toast, cereal, foods that do absolutely nothing for preserving strength and everything for accelerating decline. Now let's consider what happens long term. If every single morning for years you start your day with sugar and starch, you're compounding the problem day after day. Your muscles never get the message to build, they only get the message to break down. Over time, this leads to noticeable weakness, slower walking speed, difficulty standing, and ultimately a higher risk of falls and fractures. And here's where it gets even more concerning. Muscle loss doesn't just affect mobility. It lowers metabolism, increases fat storage, worsens insulin resistance, and raises the risk of type 2 diabetes. So that innocent bowl of cereal in the morning is silently setting you up for weakness, weight gain, and chronic disease. But let's flip the script for a moment. Imagine starting your morning differently. Instead of a bowl of oatmeal, you scramble 2 or 3 pasture-raised eggs. Instead of juice, you blend a whey protein shake. Instead of toast, you have a piece of leftover salmon from the night before. Within minutes, you've supplied your muscles with leucine, the amino acid that acts like the ignition key for muscle growth. You've stabilized your blood sugar, prevented an insulin spike, and told your body, preserve this muscle, don't break it down. Now, instead of walking into your day with weakness, you're carrying strength with you. Over weeks and months, that adds up to stability, energy, and protection against the very problems most seniors face. Here's another fascinating point. Muscle isn't just built in the gym, it's built in the kitchen. You can do all the walking, lifting, and exercise you want, but if your breakfast is sabotaging you, the results will always be limited. On the other hand, if you fuel your body properly first thing in the morning, even light exercise becomes incredibly effective. That's why I often tell people don't think of breakfast as just a meal. Think of it as a signal. Every bite you take is either signaling your body to preserve muscle or to let it waste away. Now, let me challenge you with this. Tomorrow morning, before you reach for that toast or cereal, ask yourself, do I want to start my day feeding my muscles or starving them? Because that's the real choice you're making. It's not just about taste or convenience. It's about your future strength and independence. A small shift in your breakfast habit could mean the difference between walking strong into your 70s and 80s or struggling with a walker and relying on others. And here's the best part. It doesn't require anything complicated. Eggs, cottage cheese, Greek yogurt, clean protein shakes, or even last night's dinner leftovers can be transformed into a muscle-preserving breakfast. Your first meal is not about tradition. It's about biology. The body doesn't care whether society says breakfast should be cereal and orange juice. Your body cares about amino acids, protein quality, and timing. And when you give it what it needs, especially after 60, it rewards you with energy, strength, and resilience. If you've been starting your mornings the wrong way, it's never too late to change. The next time you wake up, remember this. Your muscles are waiting for you to decide whether they will be preserved or wasted away. The power is in your plate, and breakfast is where it all begins. Have you ever wondered why some people can eat plenty of protein and still lose muscle as they age, while others seem to hold on to their strength much longer? The answer isn't just about how much protein you eat. It's about the quality and the presence of one special amino acid that flips the switch for muscle growth. That amino acid is called leucine. And if you're over 60, leucine becomes more important than ever. In fact, without enough leucine in your diet, you could be eating what looks like a high-protein meal, but your body may still be in muscle breakdown mode. That's why so many older adults, despite trying to eat well, continue to lose strength year after year. Here's a hook for you. Leucine isn't just another nutrient. Think of it as the ignition key that starts the engine of muscle growth. You can have a full tank of gas, meaning protein, but if you don't turn the key, the car doesn't move. In the same way, you can eat a plate full of protein, rich foods, but unless you hit a certain threshold of leucine, your body doesn't actually begin the process called muscle protein synthesis. This is the biological process where muscle fibers repair, rebuild, and grow stronger. And here's the kicker. This threshold becomes higher as you age. That means what worked for you at 30 doesn't work the same way at 60. Leucine works by activating a powerful pathway in your body called mTOR, short for mammalian target of rapamycin. This pathway is like the master control switch for muscle building. When leucine levels in your blood rise high enough, it signals mTOR to kick into gear, telling your muscles, start growing, start repairing. Without this trigger, your muscles simply continue breaking down no matter how much protein you consume throughout the day. So the real question isn't just, am I eating enough protein? The real question is, am I eating enough leucine to flip the switch? And now here's something that may shock you. Most older adults never actually reach that leucine threshold at any meal. They'll have a piece of toast, a small serving of yogurt, or a little chicken with dinner, but it's not enough. The average older adult needs about 2.5 to 3 grams of leucine in a single meal to stimulate muscle protein synthesis. To put that in perspective, one large egg only contains about half a gram of leucine. That means if you're just eating one egg for breakfast, it's not nearly enough. But 3 or 4 eggs, or an egg combined with whey protein suddenly gets you into that effective range where your muscles finally get the signal to grow. That's the difference between maintaining strength and slowly wasting away. Here's another hook. Leucine is so powerful that researchers call it the trigger amino acid. Without it, your muscles remain in a dormant state even if you eat plenty of protein overall. This is one of the biggest reasons why so many people over 60 struggle with muscle loss despite thinking they're doing the right thing. They'll say, I eat chicken, I eat beans, I drink milk. But the problem is, unless those meals deliver enough leucine in a single sitting, they never cross the threshold. It's like dripping water on a dry sponge. It never gets saturated enough to hold water. You need a flood, not a drip, to activate the process. The foods highest in leucine are ones you're probably already familiar with: eggs, beef, chicken, fish, whey protein, and even some plant sources like soy protein and spirulina. Whey protein in particular is one of the richest sources of leucine, which is why it's so effective for older adults trying to rebuild muscle. Just one scoop of quality whey protein can provide nearly 3 grams of leucine, enough to trigger that muscle building response. Compare that to something like beans, which, while healthy, are very low in leucine. You would need to eat a massive amount of beans to reach the same effect, which is impractical and often impossible for seniors who already struggle with appetite or digestion. Another fascinating fact about leucine is that it doesn't just stimulate muscle. It also helps prevent the breakdown of muscle by sparing protein. In other words, leucine not only turns on the growth switch, but it also protects what you already have. That means every bite of leucine-rich food is like double insurance for your muscles. You stop the loss, and you start the gain. And this becomes even more critical as you age because the body's natural anabolic signals weaken over time. Think of it like trying to start a fire with damp wood. When you're younger, even a small spark can catch, but when you're older, you need a much stronger flame to get the fire going. Leucine provides that spark, that flame, to ignite the muscle, building fire inside your body. Here's another hook. Did you know that leucine also influences blood sugar control? Strong muscles act as a sponge for glucose, and when leucine activates muscle protein synthesis, it enhances your muscle's ability to take in sugar from the bloodstream. That means not only do you build muscle, but you also improve insulin sensitivity and protect yourself from diabetes, which is one of the biggest health threats after 60. So when you eat leucine-rich foods, you're not just protecting your legs, you're protecting your entire metabolic system. Now, imagine two different 65-year-olds. One starts the day with a small bowl of cereal and fruit, maybe a little skim milk. That meal has barely a gram of leucine total, far below the threshold. Their muscles stay in breakdown mode all morning, and by lunchtime, they're weaker than when they woke up. The other starts the day with 3 eggs and a whey protein shake. That meal easily hits the leucine threshold, flips on the muscle building switch, and sets the tone for preservation all day long. Both people are the same age, but one is actively protecting their future, while the other is silently losing it. The only difference: leucine. Here's where I want you to really pay attention. If you're over 60, you cannot afford to ignore leucine. It is not optional, it is essential. Every meal is an opportunity to either trigger muscle growth or miss the chance entirely. And you only get so many opportunities in a day. That's why it's not enough to just spread out protein evenly across meals. For older adults, you need to make sure at least 1 or 2 meals hit that leucine threshold. Otherwise, your muscles simply don't get the message. So the next time you sit down to eat, ask yourself this simple question: does this meal contain enough leucine to flip the switch? If the answer is no, then you're leaving muscle on the table, literally. But if the answer is yes, you've just made a powerful choice that will help you stay strong, independent, and full of vitality for years to come. Have you ever noticed how most people load their biggest meal at night when their body is least prepared to use it? Dinner becomes the heavy meal of the day, while breakfast and lunch are often light, rushed, or made up of snacks. This eating pattern is one of the biggest hidden reasons why people over 60 continue to lose muscle despite eating what looks like enough food. The timing of protein intake is just as important as the amount, and here's the key: your muscles are most in need of protein early in the day, not at night. If you wait until dinner to finally load up on protein, you've already spent most of the day in muscle breakdown mode. By front-loading protein, eating it earlier, you change the entire direction of your body's metabolism. Think about what happens when you wake up in the morning. You've just gone through an overnight fast, sometimes 10 to 12 hours without food. Your body has been breaking down muscle protein to provide energy, releasing amino acids into the bloodstream just to keep things running. That means when you wake up, you're already in a catabolic state. Your muscles are breaking down faster than they're building. If you delay protein intake until later in the day, you extend that breakdown window. And by the time you finally get a high protein meal, you're trying to play catch up. For someone over 60, that's a game you simply can't win. The loss accelerates too quickly. But when you front-load protein, when you eat it in the morning, you immediately stop muscle breakdown and shift the body into an anabolic or building state. Here's a hook to make this crystal clear. Your muscles don't care how much protein you eat in total. If you don't eat it at the right time, you could eat 100 grams of protein at dinner. But if you've spent the entire day in muscle breakdown mode, you'll still lose ground. On the other hand, if you eat just 25 to 30 grams of high-quality protein in the morning, you trigger muscle protein synthesis when your body needs it most. That single adjustment, timing, can be the difference between keeping strong, active legs or slowly watching them weaken. Another fascinating piece of research shows that older adults actually develop what scientists call ornabolic resistance. This means their muscles don't respond to protein as efficiently as they once did. A younger person can eat a small amount of protein and still trigger muscle growth, but someone over 60 needs more protein in a single sitting to get the same effect. And the best time to deliver that larger dose is early in the day. That's because you're starting from a deficit after fasting overnight. It's like filling up your gas tank when it's empty. If you don't do it right away, you'll run on fumes all day. Let me give you a picture. Imagine two people, both 65 years old. One of them has a light breakfast, maybe coffee, a slice of toast, or nothing at all. They have a sandwich with little protein at lunch and then finally load up on a big steak at dinner. By then, their muscles have been breaking down for 15 hours straight. The protein at night is helpful, but much of it goes toward other body functions, and muscle growth is minimal. The other person, however, starts the morning with 3 eggs and a whey protein shake. Lunch includes chicken and vegetables, and dinner is lighter. That person supplied their muscles with what they needed when they needed it most. The result, The second person maintains muscle mass and strength, while the first loses it, even though both may be eating similar amounts of protein overall. The only difference was timing. Here's another hook. Your first protein meal doesn't just protect your muscles, it sets the rhythm for your entire metabolism that day. Protein has a powerful effect on satiety, meaning it keeps you full, stable, and less likely to crave sugar or overeat. When you eat protein early, your blood sugar stays balanced, your energy levels remain steady, and you're less likely to reach for junk food. For older adults who struggle with cravings or fatigue, this is a game changer. You're not just preserving muscle, you're improving your entire day. What many people don't realize is that spreading protein evenly across the day isn't as effective as front-loading it. Studies show that having 1 or 2 protein-rich meals that hit the leucine threshold is far better than nibbling on small amounts of protein at each meal. For someone over 60, that means breakfast and lunch are your golden windows. If you miss them, dinner can't fully make up for it. Think of it like watering a plant. If you only give it water at night after it's been dry and wilting all day, the damage has already been done. But if you water it in the morning and give it what it needs, it stays alive and vibrant all day long. Your muscles work the same way. Now here's where it gets even more interesting. When you combine front-loading protein with resistance training in the morning, and the effect multiplies. Exercise increases the muscle's sensitivity to amino acids. That means if you do some light weightlifting, resistance bands, or even bodyweight squats early in the day, and then follow it with a protein-rich meal, your muscles soak up those amino acids like a sponge. The combination of movement and nutrition in the morning creates the perfect environment for growth. Compare that to doing the same routine at night. Your muscles are less sensitive, your body is winding down, and much of that protein isn't used as effectively. Timing really is everything. Let's talk about practicality for a moment. What does front-loading protein actually look like? For many, it means rethinking breakfast. Instead of the traditional carb-heavy start, shift toward foods like eggs, cottage cheese, Greek yogurt, or a quality whey protein shake. Even leftovers from dinner, chicken, fish, beef, can become breakfast food if you change your mindset. Add in some vegetables or healthy fats, and you've got a balanced, muscle-preserving meal. Lunch should also include a solid serving of protein, whether it's salmon, turkey, or lentils combined with quinoa for plant-based eaters. By the time you reach dinner, you can go lighter because your muscles have already received what they needed during the day. Here's a powerful hook to leave you thinking, muscle loss doesn't happen overnight, it happens meal by meal. Every time you skip protein in the morning, you're sending your body a signal to continue breaking down muscle. Every time you front load protein, you're sending the opposite signal: preserve, protect, and build. The choice you make when you first break your overnight fast carries more weight than any other food decision that day. For someone over 60, that choice can literally determine whether you walk strong into your later years or struggle with weakness and dependence.